Hello, everyone. You've turned into the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant Rich Myers with the Indiana State Police Public Information Office. Our show is brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Alliance. And also brought to you by Tom Trial, our man behind the scene. Wave at me, Tom. Very good, Thomas. Got him a new shirt on today, looking very, very dapper. In his new shirt, he puts us on YouTube each and every week. So make sure you go to our YouTube site, Indiana State Police. All our programs are on there, and Tom's putting new programs on each and every week. We've got one guest that's been with me before on here today, and another guest that has not been with us yet, but won't be able to say that after today. We got Rick Lang from Morgan County Probation Office. He was the reentry officer with the Morgan County Probation Department. Thanks for coming in, Rick.
Good morning.
Appreciate you being here again.
Absolutely.
And I also have Morgan County Judge Brian H. Williams, Morgan Superior Court 2. Brian, that's kind of recognize that name. That's like the news guy, isn't it?
Well, that's what I like to say. I'm Brian Williams, like the news guy.
Except
I tell the truth.
Okay, I understand. Good job. We'll be able to distinct that between you and him now.
That's one of the few differences. I have a face made for radio, too.
Well, I do, too. I'm with you on that. But thank you for coming in. I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule and coming up today and talking about something that's very worthwhile and something that's kicked off in Morgan County. I know I had David Rogers up here before talking about this, but that was his side of what he did with the RSAP program, and this is more something than what the judicial side does with the RSAP program and probation. So, Judge, would you please tell us first, what is the RSAP program there in Morgan County?
Well, the RSAP program is the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program, and the idea is with the changes that we've made in Indiana about how we're incarcerating and housing low-level, medium-level offenders, we have a larger jail population and we have smaller prison populations. And as part of that arrangement between the DOC and the sheriffs, they had to make some kind of arrangement so that the jails transformed from being just a place where someone was serving a short sentence or awaiting pretrial, but instead possibly there for months after a conviction. And they needed to have something going on that was programming and something to benefit those folks rather than just simply warehousing them. In Morgan County, what that need and that obligation came out to is developing and adapting this substance abuse treatment program for addicted individuals who find themselves in jail, which of course is 99.9% of all of our offenders have some kind of substance abuse problem that is either the direct cause of their incarceration or what we discover the problem is once you peel back a couple layers of the onion. That's why they're committing property crimes or
right.
Crimes of violence usually is because they are addicted or using substances at those times. So
what kind of inmates are entered into this program? Do they have to pass something to enter into this program, or are they interviewed to enter into this program? Or how does that work out?
Well, there's a few paths that you can do to get in this program. First, you have to have a sentence that's long enough that you can actually participate and complete the program.
Okay.
The other thing you have to be for funding is you have to be a level 6 felon, which is our lowest level of felony in Indiana that can put you in jail or prison up to 2.5 years, which with credit time would be half of that.
Right.
You have to be someone who is shown to be high risk by the Indiana Risk Assessment System, which is a tool that Indiana has adopted based on some research out of I believe, a University of Cincinnati. And finally, you have to be interested in participating because there are some who, we could poke and prod and figure out exactly what their needs are. And if they're going to look you in the eye and say, I don't want to change, then they're not a candidate for this.
So it is a volunteer program.
It is a volunteer program. There are a few paths that you can get into the program if you qualify for all of those facets. You can be sentenced generally to a sentence that's long enough to qualify and apply to participate. The way we have kind of evolved things, because this is one of those situations where you find you have growing pains,
Right.
and you have to figure out how we're going to make things work, even though we've got some infrastructure, and how the parts are going to mesh with one another. And so I have had nothing to do with developing the RSAP program, but I'm a cheerleader because I feel like anyone who gets some help while they're in there has probably got a better chance of coming out the back door and being successful than someone who's just sat in there for weeks or months and talked about what they're going to do when they get out, which is reoffend and party.
Right.
And so I've been an advocate for this. And what we had run into was actually having trouble finding good candidates because of the process and the amount of time that was involved.
Right.
And so we actually got down and sat down with the prosecutor and the defense bar, and I kind of spearheaded that back last summer and talked about putting together what we call a recovery plea.
Okay.
We ran into the prosecutor kind of being resistant to some of this because part of the program is the reentry program that Rick's going to talk about.
Right.
And so they go through what amounts to 90 to 120 days of what really would be inpatient treatment if it were done in the civilian world. And instead of walking out the back door into, mom and dad's car to drive off in the sunset, they may do that, but Rick's riding along with them and going to keep an eye on them for another usually 90 days or so, and make sure that they get a job, reintegrate, and actually demonstrate some of those life skills that they've been working on while they're in. The prosecutor had some concerns about that because he was sentencing people to jail for a period of time, and then they were winding up back out in the community when, we hadn't talked about home detention, or we hadn't talked about, this community portion of this. So we got him on board, and the defense bar on board with actually looking for and identifying people that, based on their crime and the criminal history they had available, to give them an offer for what we're calling a recovery plea, where they plead guilty and enter into the program usually very quickly, rather than a protracted, did he do it?
Right.
It's okay, there's a problem, and here's how we want to address it. And so it's kind of bringing some of the problem-solving mindset to the actual incarceration portion of this. And we've gone from fairly low numbers in the program to full, to actually now considering triple bunking the area where we're housing these prisoners to be able to further expand services.
Wow.
The people that we have providing the programming are willing to scale it up as much as they can. So jail space is really our issue,
Right.
As far as being able to house these people in a separate community so that they're not in with people that are not of a like mindset, that are not interested in recovery.
Going to tear down what you've been teaching them.
Exactly. And that was the other problem we had with this. If you had some sentences that were all set in place prior to them applying to the program, getting into the program, they could finish the program, and then potentially go back into general population and have that 90 to 120 days
For not.
kind of stripped right back out of them before they got out the back door. So that's why the reentry, I think, is very important. And what Rick's doing is actually...
Well, let's talk about that. Again, you're listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance Cops for Kids. I've got reentry probation officer Rick Lang from Morgan County Probation, Judge Brian H. Williams, not the newscaster, but the telling the truth judge, right? From Morgan County Superior Court, too, with us also. We're talking about a reentry program at Morgan County. It's kind of unique. So, Rick, you get these guys right as they're getting ready to leave.
Yes.
And so what is entail in your job, and what do you do with that?
Well, after
Guys and gals, I guess, too.
Yes, there's a female pod and a male pod there at the jail. They're separated, as the judge said, from the rest of the population in the jail, and they're also dressed differently, so everybody knows who they are.
Okay.
In our particular jail, they're dressed in green. After the judge and the prosecutor and the defense all come to an agreement of where these people are going to go, or if they go into the RSAP program, we have a certified addiction counselor, therapist that's on staff there to counsel these inmates while they're in, which is an absolute blessing because if the inmates would seek that out on the outside, it costs them thousands of dollars.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So it is such a benefit not only for them but also the community as a whole. But towards about the last 4 weeks, I get a notification from Gus, the therapist and the counselor, that they're just about to graduate RSAP. And then I get them to integrate into reentry, and that reentry is a word that means just what it says. I'm reentering them into society because they've been out of it for so long, and really, and part of my duties as the reentry officer is to help them find a job. To help them find a place to live. A lot of times, these individuals, the addiction has taken over their life to such a degree that they have to be totally rewired, for lack of a better word, and taught remedial skills about just everyday living again, because the addiction is so strong.
Yeah.
But as I've said before, at least I personally believe that the brain is stronger than the addiction, because if it's not, we're all wasting our time. And but it's interesting to do it to end my career in criminal justice. It's probation will be the first one to tell you we're not law enforcement, but we are under the umbrella of criminal justice. And as you know, when I was a detective, you were
putting people in jail.
I was, and I did that in spades. And I've been retired now for 9 years, and there's still people that are in prison, and that's where they need to be. However, this is a chance for an opportunity for me to do the redemptive side of criminal justice, and I'm under no illusion that I'm going to be successful all the time. It's not. It's just not going to happen.
It's a human nature.
Right. But it is rewarding to see them, the probationers, and we call them clients, to actually start responding to what you're trying to get across to them in the process. And we have successes. And quite honestly, when I was a law enforcement officer towards the end of my career, the opioid crisis was just getting its start.
Right.
And it was obvious to me that what we were doing, and I'm not being critical of law enforcement, I mean that my heart will always be there, but what we were doing at that time, and still, we're losing that battle.
Yeah.
And so we have to think outside the box, and that's what's happening here. And I'm the last representative of the government before we let these people go and integrate back into society.
Well, they've got to have somewhere and something to do, to go to improve their life and to stay away from that friends and family, or perhaps it got them started in this in the first place. So you've got to stay with them and make sure they do that, correct?
Absolutely. More times than not, they're put on home detention. We monitor them through the BI system that they have the ankle bracelet on. Generally, they're on GPS because they, like the judge said, that they're high and moderate risk of the highest of the high. They're going to reoffend again because the addiction is so strong. But yes, we reintegrate them into society and do a lot of remedial work with them to get them back to function and pay taxes just like the rest of us do, and work. And believe it or not, 95% of the people that are in the throes of addiction know what they want. They know they don't want this lifestyle.
Well, they're down to nothing. They've lost everything. There's nowhere else to go, is there?
Right, right. And you have to believe that everybody has value, and it's still there. You just have to find it, and they have to be open to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, guys, we're down to our last 40 seconds here. We've talked this out very quickly, though, but it sounds like this program's a great program. It's going to continue there in Morgan County, and thank you so much for being a part of that and bringing us this information, and good luck with it. We hope it continues, and these folks that are that enter into this program have success, and we have a good people coming back out into society with us again.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to put this program out
Thank
there.
you, Judge.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Again, you've been listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance. We'll catch you again next week on the Roadshow. The Roadshow is out.